What is going on, Pats Nation? You guys already know who it is. Patriots Global back here with another video. And in this one, we are going to be talking about some of the coaching hirings that the New England Patriots have made so far this week. Now, here on Wednesday, they were very, very busy. They made a lot of hirings to the front office. They added a quarterbacks coach. They've been busy. They added an offensive line coach. We're not going to break down every single hiring in an individual video. It seems like some days there's rumors, other days there's nothing, and the next day they're signing like 3 people to the coaching staff. So we still need to know who's going to be the tight ends, the wide receivers, the cornerbacks coach. Once this coaching hiring is all done and we finally know what this staff is going to be like, I am going to make a complete breakdown in all of my thoughts, what each of those guys bring, again, once it is finalized. But I do want to talk about these 2 guys here in today's video because I think they're big hirings and I think that they will go a long way. That is in Ben McAdoo, who is going to be serving as a senior offensive assistant for the New England Patriots. And then on the defensive side of things, the New England Patriots finally figuring out who their defensive line coach is going to be after DeMarcus Covington was promoted to their head coach by stealing the Green Bay Packers defensive line coach, Jerry Montgomery. But without further ado, let's just roll that Patriots Global intro and hop into the first breakdown. So the first guy that I think we should talk about is Ben McAdoo, because I obviously think this is going to be the bigger hiring of the 2, but I also think that more people are going to know who Ben McAdoo is. More people are going to have question marks about him because, some people of this fan base are either, I love this move, it is awesome, it is elite, it doesn't get better than this. And then there's fans who are on the complete different side of the spectrum who are like, dear God, he's a failed head coach. Why is he here in New England? We cannot have him. So let's break down what exactly he brings to the Patriots. So, like I said, he is coming in here as a senior offensive assistant. We knew a few days ago that the Patriots were trying to figure out a contract in order to get him into the building. And like I said, I really did have my reservations about Ben McAdoo for the lone fact that, look, he was a bad head coach. He was a bad head coach, but even I know that just because you failed as a head coach doesn't mean you are going to fail as a positional coach in the NFL. Look at Josh McDaniels. Terrible, terrible head coach with the Broncos and the Raiders, but was still always a very good offensive coordinator for the Patriots. Sometimes there are coaches who are just good with positional side of things and aren't good from a wide, broad. What worried me, though, is that you look at the teams that Ben McAdoo has been with in his career, and he hasn't exactly necessarily been the best in terms of developing those quarterbacks. So when we heard rumors that McAdoo was coming to New England, my immediate thought was, quarterbacks coach, is he going to be the guy that works one-on-one in trying to develop this guy? If so, I do not want him around my quarterback. Ben McAdoo is not a guy you want developing your quarterback. But if he's a guy that's going to come in here, help make some of these offensive decisions, help kind of figure out the playbook with Alex Van Pelt, but is gonna be more of an evaluator for quarterbacks rather than a guy working to develop the quarterback, then I'm all for it. And that is exactly what Ben McAdoo is coming here. Like I said, I really don't trust Ben McAdoo one-on-one working to develop a young quarterback. It's a bad idea. But I do think that in terms of talent evaluation at the quarterback position, Ben McAdoo does very, very well. He also works very, very well with wide receivers. He had a very good relationship and was a big part in the development of Devontae Adams when he was with the Green Bay Packers. It was also said that during his time, Ben McAdoo's time with the Giants, that he was a big, big fan of Patrick Mahomes. When they were in the draft process trying to figure out who their next quarterback was going to be after Eli Manning, he said, we need to get Patrick Mahomes in here. That is my guy. And he even listed Josh Allen as the best quarterback in that draft. So he was clearly able to identify the prolific top tier quarterbacks that were going to be entering the NFL, but nobody decided that they were going to listen to him. Supposedly, too, Ben McAdoo wanted to get Eli Manning out of the organization sooner than ultimately the front office and the ownership of the Giants let him do because he was a fan favorite. Another one of my concerns with McAdoo just came from the fact that, again, he was a former head coach in the NFL. He's been with a lot of different teams in the NFL. Was he going to come in and be a big voice that kind of took over offensively, and then you have issues behind the scenes again? That doesn't seem like it's going to be an issue, though, as Alex Van Pelt and Ben McAdoo are familiar with each other. Not only that, but Ben McAdoo is very familiar with the Green Bay Packers system that Alex Van Pelt has worked with, but also Elliott Wolf has worked with, who is kind of the de facto general manager for the New England Patriots, according to Ian Rappaport. Now, in terms of McAdoo's background, he has been a coach for a very, very long time, coaching in a multitude of different positions. He did coach high school football from 1996 to 1999, then went to Michigan State in 2001 as a graduate assistant, went to Fairfield in 2002 as an offensive line coach and tight ends coach, finally went to Pittsburgh then in 2003 as a graduate assistant before making his NFL debut with the New Orleans Saints in 2004 as an offensive quality control coach, then went to the San Francisco 49ers in 2005 as an assistant offensive line coach, the Green Bay Packers from 2006 to 2011 as their tight ends coach, and then got promoted to their quarterbacks coach from 2012 to 2013, if you want to call that a promotion, and then went to the New York Giants from 2014 to 2015 as their offensive coordinator before becoming the head coach of the New York Giants from 2016 to 2017. After his tenure as a head coach, he went to the Jacksonville Jags in 2020 as their quarterbacks coach, where he worked with Gardner Minshew, who I believe Minshew was in his second year at that point, then went to the Dallas Cowboys in 2021 as a consultant, then went to the Carolina Panthers in 2002 as an offensive coordinator. That's when he was working with guys like Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, took off the 2023 year, wasn't a part of a coaching staff in the NFL or really anywhere for that fact, before again coming here to New England in 2024, being a senior offensive assistant. Like I said, I really don't think that Ben McAdoo is coming in here to work on the field, help train the players, is going to help develop the quarterback. And that's the important thing, because if that's what was happening, I'd be concerned. Quite honestly, I don't think at this point in his career, Ben McAdoo is a head coach, a quarterback's coach, an offensive line coach. He's really not a coach at all, and he should be more of a front office guy. He should be a scout because, again, that is where he is elite. Like I mentioned before, in 2017, he wanted to trade up for Patrick Mahomes, but ultimately the Chiefs jumped them, and that's when the Giants weren't able to get him. His list, because apparently this was leaked, his list, according to an interview on the New York Post, this was Ben McAdoo's 2018 quarterback list evaluation in order. He put Josh Allen as the best quarterback, then Lamar Jackson, then Sam Darnold, then Josh Rosen, then Mason Rudolph, then Baker Mayfield. For the most part, he hit on it pretty perfectly. The thing, too, is that New England doesn't really need a guy to come in Ben McAdoo and develop the quarterback. They have Alex Van Pelt, who has a long record in multiple different offensive schemes, being able to work with different quarterbacks, some of the best quarterbacks in the league, like Aaron Rodgers, and be able to develop them. They also already have a quarterbacks coach in the building, too. So far throughout the offensive coaching moves on the staff that they've made, it's very clear that they view quarterback extremely high, arguably as their number one priority, and they want to make sure that they evaluate the guy correctly that comes in, whether that's free agency or trade or via the draft, to get the right guy in the building that is going to translate to the NFL level the best way. Not only that, not only do they want to find their future at quarterback, but they also want to be able to develop him. That's where, again, guys like Alex Van Pelt come in. So between Alex Van Pelt and Ben McAdoo, in terms of evaluating what quarterback should be here in New England and then making sure that you actually develop him correctly, I like these moves for New England offensively, and they are doing everything right to make sure that they don't do what Bill Belichick did in trying to evaluate Mac Jones and then surround him with absolutely nothing. Now, as for Jerry Montgomery along the defensive line, this is another move that I really, really like. The Patriots before seems like they were bringing in a lot of younger coaches, more specifically as positional coaches. And I'm glad that they didn't go that direction with Montgomery here because you do still need a guy in the room that can add a veteran aspect. It's not always just from a player aspect, but sometimes it's even from a coaching aspect too. A guy that has experience and can take the locker room by storm. And Montgomery is a guy who was very, very respected throughout his time with, yet again, the Green Bay Packers. This is another move that goes back to Elliott Wolf's time with the Green Bay Packers. You look at this coaching staff, and you can say more than half of them at this point, really all of these hirings as of late, have all come from the tree of the Green Bay Packers from Elliott Wolf. But Montgomery here is going to be a former player in the NFL himself. He went to college at Iowa. He was undrafted in 2002, had some time with the New Orleans Saints in 2002, didn't last very long, ended up playing with the Chicago Rush in 2003, the Colorado Crush in 2004, and then in 2005, the Las Vegas Gladiators. Now, in terms of kind of his history as a coach, he coached for Iowa in 2003 as a student assistant coach. Then he coached at Iowa City West High School from 2003 to 2004 as an assistant coach. Then spent several years as a defensive line coach for Northern Iowa, for Wyoming, for Indiana, for Michigan, for Oklahoma, before ultimately getting his opportunity to coach at the NFL level for the Green Bay Packers in 2015 to 2017 as a defensive front assistant. Then in 2018 to 2021, he was their defensive lines coach. Then in 2022 to 2023, he was the Packers' defensive line coach and running game coordinator. Another thing you love about a veteran coach like Montgomery, who has a lot of experience at the collegiate level, has experience as a player, but also has experience in the NFL, he's been able to see how the league has changed. He knows so many different defensive schemes. He's seen what the league was like, a few years ago versus what it's turned into for today's modern NFL. And the Packers' defensive line over the last few years has definitely taken strides each and every single year at improving, especially this past year. I thought they took a pretty big step forward into being like a fringe top 10 to just back end of the top 10 defensive line in the National Football League. And a big part of that came with just how good they were at being able to stop the run. That's something that New England was really the best at the entire National Football League in 2020. Good thing here, too, is that if things don't go that well with Montgomery, then you still have DeMarcus Covington as your defensive coordinator who made the Patriots defensive line as stout as it was last year. So there's really no reason for the Patriots D-line to take a step back in 2024. Now, this past season in 2023 with the Green Bay Packers, Montgomery worked with guys like Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, Lucas Van Ness, who was their first round pick this past year. So there's definitely some big names on that D-line. But you know what? He's now going to have an opportunity to work with Matthew Judon, Christian Barmore, possibly Anthony Jennings if the Patriots bring him back. Maybe Josh Uche or whoever the Patriots decide to pick up as their next defensive end opposite of Matthew Judon. I'm curious to see what Montgomery is going to be able to do with clearly much improved players than the Packers have. Overall, I was a little bit scared to see what the Patriots were going to do on the D-line after DeMarcus Covington did get promoted from D-lines coach to defensive coordinator because really New England's defensive line being as stout as it was a big reason that team was as successful defensively as it was in 2023. And that is something that has to carry itself over, whether that was stopping the run or being able to get pressure on opposing quarterbacks. That helped so many deficiencies that they had in their secondary. Now just imagine the defensive line the Patriots had last year mixed with an actual healthy secondary this year. The Patriots could, dare I say, be back into contention if they have a middle of the pack offense. And by the way, not for a Super Bowl, but back in contention for the playoffs if they can have a middle of the pack offense and can have a stout defense like they did. But guys, you let me know how you are feeling about these hirings in the comment section below. Like I mentioned, we'll break down all of the hirings in a later on video. I like to talk more personnel than I do coaches, but of course, this is a new year. This is a New England Patriots team, and we got to talk about the new guys that are coming in because they will heavily influence the impact and the outcome of the success of this football team. So make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't on your way out and hit that bell notification so that you get notified every single time that we post a video. Make sure to leave a big like on your way out too because it massively helps support the channel. But as always, I appreciate you guys for watching. Never forget, go Pats.